Hey everybody, welcome back to the Purple Ace Society YouTube, my home for my mini university to help us transition to more fourth dimensional thinking. We're having a lot of very high level conversations over here, high quality conversations on everything from spirituality to the ancient spiritual sciences, mythology, gender studies, race and culture, politics, relationships, personal development, self-esteem, all from a much higher vantage point from what I would consider a more fourth dimensional position and point of view. We've got all kinds of playlists. I got an astrology playlist, a playlist to help us understand the healing of the fascia in the body, which is like the bridge between the body and the spirit, in my opinion. We've got lectures. I've got audiobook playlists. I've got a playlist dedicated to nothing but ancient holy texts from all around the world. This playlist is actually a part of my series called Real Talk with AI, where I go over some of my most profound conversations with ChatGPT. And I also have a playlist on there called Demystifying the Tarot, where I'm breaking down all of the tarot cards in the deck. We just made it to the King cards in the minor arcana, and so tune in, make sure to subscribe, and if you stay till the end, I'll be giving you some information on my $7 a month mystery school. The reason why I tackle this particular subject on the tarot, understanding the history of the tarot, is because it is my opinion, without being judgmental, I do feel that tarot readers often give tarot a bad name. I personally believe, I've been a tarot practitioner for 13 years. I've done hundreds and hundreds of readings, and I've more recently transitioned into tarot education versus doing individual tarot readings, because I want people to know how to be able to look at the cards and get benefit from themselves. But you can't really get a lot of benefit if you're looking at these inanimate objects as a predictive or omen based tools. The purpose of modern use of the tarot is for you to be able to analyze the symbols on the cards and to process how your subconscious mind looks at that symbol. The card isn't doing the reading or predicting anything. It's just a tool, a prompt to allow you to unlock your own subconscious beliefs on certain topics, right? So the question that I posed to ChatGPT is this: I understand that the tarot may have originated from Egypt into Europe. What is the history of this, and what were the precursor games that may have influenced it? And ChatGPT says, let me give you a clear arc you can use, the historical roots, the Egyptian connection theory, and the card games that influence tarot. The origins of tarot, history versus myth. Documented history. The earliest surviving tarot decks date to 15th century Italy, circa 1420s through 1440s. They were called carte de triomphe, or cards of triumphs, later shortened to tarocchi. These were luxury hand-painted decks for noble families like the Visconti Sforza of Milan. The purpose at first, not divination. They were used for a trick-taking game similar to modern bridge. Number 2, the Egyptian connection, esoteric tradition. In the 18th century, French occultists like Court de Gebelin claimed tarot contained hidden wisdom from ancient Egypt. He believed the trumps, or the major arcana, were fragments of the Book of Thoth, a mythical Egyptian book of wisdom attributed to the god of writing and magic. Later esotericists, Eliphas Levi Pappas, Golden Dawn, etc., expanded this, linking tarot to Kabbalah, astrology, alchemy, and mystical Egypt. The scholarly view. There's no direct historical evidence of Egyptian origin, but the symbolism resonates strongly with archetypes that echo Egyptian, Hermetic, and universal wisdom traditions. Number 3, precursor games that influence tarot. Before tarot became a cult, it was a game deck. Its influences include mamluk playing cards from the Islamic world, circa the 14th century, which were brought into Europe via trade routes, possibly Venice, had 4 suits, cups, swords, coins, polo sticks, which became wands, and court cards included king, deputy, second deputy, which are predecessors of knight and page. European playing cards of the 14th century. Suits varied: swords, cups, coins, and clubs, Italy, Spain. and then hearts, spades, diamonds, and clubs, which came from France. The tarot's 22 trumps were added later as a unique invention in Italy. So tarot is basically mamluk suits, plus European playing card structure, plus Italian triumph allegories, and that made the tarot deck. Number 4, tarot's transformation into a mystical tool. Between the 1400s and the 1700s, it was used as a game among nobles. Between the 1700s and the 1800s, French occultists declare it an esoteric book in disguise. Between the 19th and 20th century, the secret dawn societies, the Golden Dawn Theosophists, the Golden Dawn and the Theosophists systemized tarot's links to astrology, Hebrew letters, and alchemy. 20th century onward, it became a tool for psychology, self-reflection, and spiritual work. An example of that would be in the study of Carl Jung's archetypes. The next question that I asked ChatGPT was, who was Court de Gebelin, and what aspects of the book could this have been connected to? And ChatGPT says, great question, because Court de Gebelin is really the pivot point where tarot jumps from being a card game into being seen as a book of hidden wisdom. Who was Court de Gebelin? Full name, Antoine Court de Gebelin, who lived through between 1725 and 1784. He was a French Protestant pastor, a Freemason, and scholar during the Enlightenment. He was fascinated by mythology, symbolism, and the origins of languages. His life work was a multi-volume encyclopedia called Le Monde Primitif, Analyse et comparée avec le monde moderne. Okay, so I was just trying my little French. I used to take French diction in college, but I don't remember any of that. So please forgive me, okay? Anyone who is French listening in, do not beat me up. I know how y'all all about your language. I'm just doing the best I can, okay? And the translation of that book is the primeval world analyzed and compared with the modern world. Tarot in Le Monde Primitif, Volume 8, written in 1781. In this book, he included a famous essay where he argued the tarot wasn't just a card game, but the remnant of an ancient book of wisdom. He believed the major arcana, or the trumps, were the pages of a sacred text, which is called the Book of Thoth. According to him, the imagery carried Egyptian religious and philosophical truths, and tarot was a symbolic system meant to encode the esoteric knowledge of the Egyptians. Over time, it had been disguised as a card game and smuggled into Europe. Aspects he connected tarot to. Court de Gebelin didn't give a full system that came later with Eliphas Levi and the Golden Dawn, but he made several symbolic connections. The high priestess, the papess, was Egyptian Isis, keeper of mysteries. The magician, batelier, the initiate, adept working with sacred tools. The star, sun, and moon cards were the cosmic principles, Egyptian-style astrotheology. The Wheel of Fortune corresponded to fate and destiny cycles in universal law, and the Fool was the wandering soul, very close to what later became the Fool's Journey. He suggested the entire major arcana was essentially a hieroglyph book, a symbolic map of universal truths. Why this was revolutionary? Before him, tarot was only seen as a game. His essay reframed tarot as something ancient and sacred, planting the seed for occult tarot traditions. Later esotericists like Italia, Jean-Baptiste Alliette, Eliphas Levi, and the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn built complex symbolic systems, the Kabbalah, astrology, alchemy, on top of his Egyptian hypothesis. Even Aleister Crowley's Thoth tarot wouldn't exist without Court de Gebelin. So in short, Court de Gebelin was a visionary scholar who looked at the tarot and said, this isn't just a game, it's a lost sacred text. Even though modern historians didn't find evidence that tarot came directly from Egypt, his intuition shaped how we understand tarot as a book of archetypes and spiritual wisdom today. The next question I asked was, so what Egyptian card games or systems might have been the precursor? This is one of the juiciest parts of the tarot story because it sits at the edge of history, myth, and speculation. Let's unpack it carefully so you have a solid foundation. The historical trail, Egypt, and the card games. Number 1, no Egyptian playing cards as we know them. There was no evidence of Egyptians using paper playing cards like tarot. Paper itself didn't arrive in Egypt until much later via the Islamic world. I don't know that I believe that, but we'll go with that for now. What Egypt did have were divinatory, symbolic, and game systems, which could be seen as precursors in spirit, if not directly. Number 2, Mamluk playing cards, the 14th century. These are the direct ancestors of tarot suits. Originated in the Islamic Mamluk Sultanate, which was an Egypt-based power, then spread into Europe via trade through Venice and Spain. The Mamluk deck had 4 suits: the cups, the coins, the swords, and the polo sticks, which became wands in Europe. Each had court figures, such as the king, the viceroy, and the second viceroy, and the imagery was abstract, no people picture due to Islamic artistic restrictions. These are historically the closest Egyptian-related precursor to tarot. Egyptian symbolic systems that could have inspired the esoteric layer. Even though there was no Egyptian tarot cards, the Egyptian worldview offered symbolic systems that later occultists like Court de Gebelin and Levi mapped onto tarot. Number 1, the Book of Thoth, a legendary book said to contain all the magic and wisdom of the gods, sometimes associated with Thoth, the god of writing, wisdom, and magic, and later occultists imagined tarot as its survival in disguised form. Number 2, hieroglyphs as symbolic language. Each hieroglyph was both picture plus word plus idea, and esoteric readers saw tarot images in the same way, archetypal symbols that convey layered meaning. Number 3, Egyptian board games. Senet, circa 3100 BCE, a game of 30 squares associated with the soul's journey through the afterlife. This was later linked to the Book of the Dead, or the Egyptian, it's actually called the Egyptian Book of the Coming Forth by Day. And players' movements symbolize passage through trials of death and rebirth. Some have compared this to the Fool's Journey of Tarot. Mehen, the Game of the Snake, which was a circular game board, serpent-shaped, possibly linked to cycles of protection and rebirth. Number 4, astro-religious systems. Egyptians mapped divine order through the stars, planets, and decans, the 36 star groups, and gods and archetypal roles. This cosmology is very similar to how tarot got later linked to astrology and Kabbalah. Putting it together, the concrete precursor, the historical concrete precursor. The Mamluk cards from the Islamic world, Egypt included, directly inspired the 4 suits of tarot. Mythic, esoteric precursors were the Senet, Game of the Soul's Journey, hieroglyphic symbolism, which was picture and words equal archetypes, and the Book of Thoth, the legendary lost wisdom text. The occultist leap, Court de Gebelin and others saw tarot not as a game, but as a hieroglyphic book from Egypt, echoing these symbolic traditions. And the next question I asked was, let's dive into the Mamluk, because obviously the tarot came out of a game called the Mamluks, or the Mamluks inspired the original game. So who are the Mamluks? Who are they, and what were they about, and what was it about the Mamluks, that inspired the tarot? So that's why I asked, who are the Mamluks? Perfect, because the Mamluk deck is really where the tarot cards DNA comes from. It's also dramatic history, since it links Islamic Egypt, medieval trade, and eventually the Italian Renaissance deck. Here's a deep dive. Who were the Mamluks? The Mamluks were a ruling warrior caste in Egypt between 1250 and 1517 CE. Originally enslaved soldiers, they rose to power and created a dynasty. They were deeply connected to Islamic art, culture, and trade routes stretching from Cairo to Venice. The Mamluk playing cards, circa 14th century. They are the oldest surviving Mamluk cards, or the oldest surviving Mamluk cards are now in Topkapi Palace Museum, in the Topkapi Palace Museum in Istanbul, and they date around the late 1300s. They are the direct ancestors of European playing cards and thus tarot. The structure of the deck. There's 4 suits: the cups, the coins, the swords, and the polo sticks, which later became batons, wands, and tarot. And just for context, the cups in your playing cards are going to be your hearts. Your coins or pentacles are going to be your diamonds. Your swords are going to be your spades, and your polo sticks, which became wands, are actually going to be your clubs. And then they have the court cards, which are the king, the viceroy, naib, and the second viceroy. This is where tarot's king, queen, knight, page structure evolved, though Europeans added their own twists. And they also included the number cards 1 through 10, which were beautifully decorated. The design features: they were highly ornate with calligraphy and geometric patterns, but no human figures. And the reason for that is Islamic art discouraged representation of humans, animals, and sacred or luxury objects. Instead, cards bore floral, arabesque, and poetic inscriptions. Example: some surviving cards have poetic verses praising wine, love, or noble qualities, like a lyrical version of a fortune cookie wisdom. How they reach Europe: through Venetian and Genoese merchants trading with Egypt and the Islamic world. By the late 1300s, card games based on the mamluk structure appeared in Spain and Italy. Europeans adapted the suits, adding court figures with people depicted, knights and pages. Within a few decades, Italian artists added triumph cards, which we now call the major arcana, to this basic playing card system, creating the first true tarot decks. And that came with the Visconti Sforza circa the 1440s. Why the mamluks matter to tarot? Well, number one, they gave us the suits: cups, coins, swords, polo sticks, and wands. They gave us the structure, number two, which the numbers are 1 through 10 plus court hierarchy. Number three, they proved tarot didn't just appear magically, it evolved out of cultural exchange. And number four, the esoteric twist. Even though mamluk cards weren't occult, their calligraphy and abstract patterns feel symbolic, like a precursor to how later Europeans would load tarot with hidden meaning. And so, in essence, as you take all that information and synthesize it, in essence, what happened was there was an Egyptian dynasty called the Mamluks. They were a military dynasty. They ran a very strict military society, but they also were a very artistic, creative, rich culture of a society as well. Based on that dynasty's presence in Egypt and the cultural influence of Egypt, that may or may not have, or that obviously, did include some information on Thoth or Hermes, the stories and tales of Hermes on the ancient temple walls, that may or may not have influenced the Mamluk society. Later on down the line, this card game called the Mamluks started to emerge in Europe, took on different names, and over time, the culture of Europe added its own flavor, its own style. And then in the 17 to 1800s, Court de Gebelin, or Antoine Court de Gebelin, began doing some research of his own. He also was believed that he received a spiritual transmission that directly tied the tarot back to ancient Egypt. However, we don't know that that's true or not. However, he did find some interesting parallels. But remember, it was still just a card game. It was still just a card game. The major arcana was added to give it more depth, to allow it to be a tool to help you make sense of your own subconscious. And by the time Carl Jung came around, Carl Jung basically solidified the use of the tarot cards in that way, because he focused primarily on the aspects of the subconscious mind that we project into the world around us. So we have an ancient tradition systems, and we have a military army, we have a card game, we have spiritual transmissions, we have spiritual research getting added onto this, and then you have some psychology that's been added to it, and it transformed into what it became today. But in none of those instances, in none of that story, does it confirm that tarot was meant to be used as some kind of predictive or omen-based tool. any kind of predictions that you pull from that, that's coming from your own mind. It's just a prompt if you're able to do that. But see, you could do that with anything. People use nature and plants as tools to help you unlock and uncover and unearth that which is lodged in your own subconscious. It's not the thing, the inanimate object. It is the way that you see it and how you're able to process information. It doesn't make it any less valuable that it is not predictive. It makes it actually more valuable because it is actually it is consistent, it's congruent, it is integrative with your higher mind. And that's how I use the tarot. So now in my Inner Four Mystery School that takes place over on Substack, every Sunday night, I actually do a full 10 card reading, right? And when the readings that I do are education based, they're showing you the process of learning how to decode the patterns, decode the numbers, decode the symbols, decode the archetypes and situationships that are found in the cards, and how to use those and apply them to your life. And it's a rich conversation because each card gives so much depth. It gets historical information. It gets information on mythology and ancient spiritual sciences that we can use to understand not only our own psychology, but our relationships, pop culture, entertainment. I even use my love of music and my love of comedy and sitcoms as a way to deepen the conversation. And we also have a book club. Right now we're reading How to Win Friends and Influence People. And it's only $7 a month. And it is so much fun. Everyone who participates with the Inner Forward, I get such great feedback on each episode. And I drop them every Sunday night. The only time you won't get a reading on Sunday is if I'm sick or if I am just way too exhausted, because I don't believe going in with that kind of information in a low vibratory state or in a state of brain fog where I can't really focus, I can't really think straight. I just don't feel that that's a good idea. So you may receive a reading here or there that's a little bit late, but for the most part, it comes out every Sunday night over on Substack. Again, $7 a month, including the reading and the book club. And the whole purpose behind the tarot, the way that I use it in tarot education, the way I use it is just like I say, we want to get out of allowing ourselves to be our ego's bitch. And instead we want to make the ego our bitch. That's the whole purpose of why I do it. It's a detoxification of the ego's control on our personality. And it just helps us develop, some spiritual and emotional maturity, helps us to improve our relationships, helps us to deepen our spirituality, and helps us to unlock our own spiritual gifts. These are just prompts and tools to help us do that. They're not doing it for us. It's us doing it through use of them. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you're interested, click the link in the description box. That link is also in my bio. You can check it out. Click that. You can listen to one reading for free. I highly suggest the Michael Jackson reading that I did last month. It was really, really good. I'm not sure why someone's honking outside my door. I wish they would stop. But so if you hear that, please forgive me. But tune in. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Comment below in the video, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.